Welcome to BrotoGP. This is episode number 129. We are firmly in the winter break. It is still 2019, and I think you're going to be getting this on a Monday. But so we got some interesting things to talk about. Iannone popped up in the news again, and there's been some MotoAmerica stuff that I feel like a lot of our fans don't know about. So we're going to get to talking about all that, but let's get moving on this. If you're not watching the video, as you don't know, it's just me and Kev this time. The Kev and Rob show is back.
Hey, all right. Two dudes agreeing with each other. Just a couple of guys just agreeing with each other, talking, just, running the motorcycle media game. I mean, it's not like gay or nothing. I mean, we have sex, but it's not about that. It's not about that. That's just like a perk.
That's just a perk.
It's two guys running the galaxy. Family Guy reference.
I missed that Family Guy episode.
It's from the episode where they redo Star Wars and Stewie is talking about just a couple when he's trying to convince Luke to be his, to join the galaxy. Or just a couple of guys running the galaxy. I mean, like it's not gay or nothing. I mean, they have sex, but it's not about that.
Yeah, because Stewie is not closeted, and also never mind. I'm not going to go there. No,
it's all good.
We're moving on.
Right. Explaining your jokes is the best way to make sure your jokes were funny.
I still laugh, though, when you have to explain them, Kev, so I feel like it's fine.
And to be honest, guys, the only reason I do this show is to hang out with Rob.
Yeah, kind of true.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, so before we get into actual motorcycle news and information, Rob's, is there a cat in the background? Riders Law, they're our sponsor. I've been doing the plugs lately because Rob thinks I do them well. And if there's nothing Rob likes better is when I do things well. Boom, boom. So Riders Law, they're your motorcycle accident injury lawyer based in California, but they can help you anywhere now as a recent 2019 development. So if you are injured in an accident, if you get a ticket that you think you were wronged, if you have any legal requirements, help needed revolving around your motorcycles, motor vehicles, whatever, give Cy with Riders Law a call. That's Riders Law with a Z. So RIDERZ law.com. They've been sponsoring us pretty much since the get-go, and they continue to sponsor us, and they sponsor a ton of people in the sport. They're super into the sport. Dennis writes articles for their website, so you can check out their website. They got lots of blogs, news, information. They run lots of stuff. So it's more than just actually motorcycle injury lawyers. They are, but Riders Law Racing is an Instagram page, a Facebook page. They have a heck of a lot more than just like legal help. But if you need legal help, they will help you, and you tell them we sent you.
I think that might be the first time we've actually spelled out Riders on this entire thing.
Right.
Even after printing shirts that had riderslawwithaz.com on them.
Yes, exactly. Correct. Still my favorite shirt. I am all about that aesthetic. I wish we had that. Speaking of shirts, before we get started, Rob has a quick announcement regarding some shirts.
A bunch of people were asking for more larges and mediums and extra larges of the Davizioso 8-bit print. So I made some.
So we have some.
Yeah. I know it's a little late. Wait.
There you go. Boom. Popular shirt. Everyone likes it. If you want to get them, shop.brotogp.com. You can pick them up. We ship worldwide. Lots of people ask all the time. It's fucking 2019. It's almost the Roaring 20s. It's not hard to ship anywhere in the world. It's like no big deal. Like,
should I show them my printer that prints out fancy labels?
Yeah, it prints it out. It's all in there. If you can print. If you want it, we ship things to Tokyo, South Africa, Singapore, Scotland, India, Australia, tons of stuff to Australia. And actually, that reminds me, before the one last thing before we get started, and if you complain about talking a lot before we get started, Joe Rogan talks for like 12 minutes before he gets to his show, and he's the most popular podcast.
We're at 4.5.
Australia, we have a lot of fans in Australia, a ton of fans, and they're having major problems with wildfires. It's pretty much like apocalypse happening right then and there. Living in Northern California, I can empathize. They've had issues with wildfires coming up, and it's majorly so. Hang in there, guys. The smoke can be omnipresent, and it can feel like you're kind of lost and hopeless, but it's pretty gnarly. But hang in there. BrotoGP, me, Rob, Dennis, Ev, and all the fans are rooting for you guys to make it through that. So to all the Australian bros and broettes out there, dude bros and girl bros, and everyone in between the dude and girl bros, we are your bros.
Yeah, we're really rooting for you. That's, I mean, I really haven't had to deal with wildfires much down here in San Diego, but I know you do, Kev. And I was shocked that it was even just that much worse.
It's so bad. There's like, I think they posted a map today that showed that like there's only 2 roads that can get you out of Sydney right now.
Yeah,
The rest of the roads are like, if you just like throw it on Waze, like I want to get out of Sydney, it's like there's 2 roads because the rest are blocked by wildfire. It's crazy. Record temperatures, and for Australia, it's not supposed to be that hot down there for how the infrastructure is built, power lines, the way the houses are built. It's kind of like when they have the record heat waves in Finland and in France and or Northern Europe. Like those houses aren't built for that. Those houses are built to maintain heat in the cold. So like it's gnarly. And the houses in Australia and the building, the infrastructure, just like in California, aren't really meant for the high winds and the sustained temperatures and when they were built and designed. So it can be pretty hideous. But on to racing, motorcycle information, fun stuff, cool shit.
Yeah, so big news talking point. We'll start off with the big one first. Is actually something that Kev really would enjoy discussing on this podcast.
So Andrea Iannone, because of all the guys that test positive for an anabolic steroid, his actual steroid he tested for was drostanolone.
Oh, they released it.
They released it. So it's an anabolic steroid, a straight up like Schedule 1 anabolic steroid. He tested positive. He claims that he isn't taking anything. He's been tested many other times. There's no problem. He requested his B sample be tested. B samples effectively are just the other half of the piss or the blood where they took. So it's rare that you have a faulty test. The test rarely is the fault, right?
False positive.
A false positive, exactly, are incredibly rare. It's possible, but it's incredibly rare. So his B test will almost assuredly come back for the same test. And rarely will a company that does testing, WADA, USADA, all of those, say they got a bad test. Because once you've admitted that your tests are bad, you admit that you've admitted liability for people who make millions of dollars. So it's just like in baseball, you never hear of false positives. You'll hear later of people being exonerated, like in UFC, Nate Diaz was exonerated because while he tested positive, they decided that the substance he tested for was from a tainted vegan multivitamin. Yoel Romero, who is another UFC fighter, was tested positive, found out that the positive test came from a supplement which had ingredients that weren't listed. He actually ended up receiving like a $20 million judgment. I don't know if that's ever going to go through, but he did receive an actual monetary judgment based on that. And that's just one sport, right? So before I get started on this, to reiterate, I'm not a doctor, but skill acquisition in sport. No, for real, for a second. I'm not a doctor, so all my medical advice this is not based on like having a degree in medicine, but skill acquisition research is an actually weird hobby of mine. So like, for example, here's a shitload of textbooks on the subject right now. Performing under pressure, sport recovery performance, training anticipation, decision making. These are all books also. These aren't like books. These are textbooks. All of these are show the studies, all of it. They're published. Most of these are published by Routledge, which is a UK-based academic journal. They've been publishing for like 150 years. And one of the nice things about them is they publish all their textbooks in second, third editions in paperback form. So you can purchase textbooks that aren't the insane price extortion level costs that most university and college textbooks are. So everything I'm telling you, this episode is going to be based on actual research, actual studies that if you have questions, you can message us and I can send you towards the study. I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass, but I can't actually say I'm giving medical advice. So first things first, dude tests positive, and you're going to see 2 kind of basic ideas going around on the internet regarding testing positive. One is that he knowingly did it because like that, there's no way you could make that mistake, and that doing steroids isn't beneficial anyway. And I'm here to truth bomb the falsity of both those things. So the first thing I want to talk about is the idea that he couldn't have unknowingly taken a steroid and clearly did it. So in 2018, the U.S. There was a study done, Scientific America. If you want like an easy way to access this, there was a big test that did like 750 supplements are listed in. This is the United States alone. As 750 brands, almost 800 brands, as having unlisted pharmaceutical ingredients.
Wait.
Okay, so they were tested. Yes.
Wait, like what percentage of like the market is that?
It's huge, right? It's huge.
That's ridiculous.
So they tested this. The most common supplements they tested, which made up the bulk, about 85% of the things tested were in weight loss and muscle building and sexual performance.
Which is
now, if you look at Andrea Iannone, you want to be shredded, you want to be thin, and you want to be boned up. Okay, like he's not even keeping that a secret. That is the lifestyle he lives, and that's why we like him. But 86% of these supplements listed were listed as having one or more. Okay, one or more unlisted pharmaceutical grade ingredients. Now, this is a problem because in America, and we're talking about a guy who travels 18 races all over the world. I'm thinking like, Thailand does not have as stringent a testing and protocols, but the FDA lists supplements. They're not listed, regulated, or tested like a pharmaceutical ingredient. They're food. Okay, so it's a totally different ballgame.
In the United States.
The United States. But we're talking about like the United States, so like, United States, UK, most of the Western world is going to have obviously larger bodies of Food and Drug Administration like organizations. So if you're traveling in Thailand, you're traveling in a lot of places, you're going to Argentina, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, they probably got Viagra on sale in Argentinian gas stations. So, but back to the point. So we have massive amounts of tainted supplements, and the things that were most commonly found of the tainted supplements, 750 brands in the U.S. alone. Can you name 750 brands of supplements? Fuck no. You know what I mean?
I can't name 750 brands of just
like
brands.
Anything, right?
Yeah.
There's that's how big the supplement industry is and how unregulated it is. Now, I'm going to hit you with some horrifying information in a second. The FDA, and you can find this if anyone wants to leak, the FDA, FDA.gov, has a list of the supplements and what they tested positive for. The horrifying idea is that less than half of these supplements that had pharmaceutical grade steroids, weight loss, or other prescription drugs in them were recalled. Less than half. So the FDA knows. So if you guys want to take roids but can't get them, you go to this site, find the ones that were listed for steroids, and then go to your vitamin store and find the ones that are still on the shelf because they weren't recalled, and you can get a huge ripped boner. Okay?
I mean, they're probably on Amazon, like, and
literally, this is common knowledge for anyone, like, even remotely involved in like athletics, skill development, strength and conditioning, or whatever. Okay, so, but the three things they most commonly tested positive for, literally, anabolic steroids is one of them. That is among the most common thing. So anyone who's saying you can't get steroids out of a tainted supplement is straight up wrong. They are uninformed. They're making stuff up. That is not based in science whatsoever. Everything I'm telling you right now is easily Google. You can Google this. You can find the studies. The FDA, they make no bones about it. There's a page that shows the supplements and what they were tested for and what they failed and what batches failed. Like 80% of the batch is all. Okay, so like like all of these have it. Yeah. So we have to understand that even in the United States, it's incredibly unregulated. It's incredibly tainted. And obviously, that's what you would do, right? If you want to make like a muscle builder, you want your Muscle Stack Pro or whatever you do, and it has actual roids in it, your clients and purchasers and consumers are going to have success, and they're going to tell their friends.
I was talking to Luke about this. Like, I'm sure that the majority of the customers for these companies is regular people, right? There's way more of them, of us, than there are professional athletes. Right. So they're just kind of screwing over any professional athlete that may take their product without having knowledge of it.
Now, that's I'm not saying he did or didn't take something, right? He may have been like, fuck, this is going to make me shredded and boned up and yoked, so I'm going to take it. Or he may have been at a gas station in Argentina with like ready to go to an orgy and saw the little black thing that has like the 3 different pills that just says like male XXX. And he's like, I don't know, it's at a gas station. It's not going to have roids in it. Well, actually, it probably does. So this idea that tainted supplements can't have anabolic steroids is categorically false. You can find which supplements do have the roids in them and go get them if you want. So, like, talking point A, he had to have knowingly taken it, is straight up wrong. The supplement industry is so unregulated that the chances of anyone taking supplements, I think my friend in the jiu-jitsu community had listed a study that if you were to non-selectively choose 10 of the most common supplements on the market and take them, so 10 supplements, a lot of people take 5 to 10 different supplements, right? Like their whole little stacks for their lifting and working out and cardio, whatever. You have like a 25% chance of being on a legal substance. Now, WADA has their listed, like you can go to their website and find which supplements are approved. So theoretically, if you were to say this is what I took and prove it, you would be exonerated, right? Because this is a listed approved supplement. But the idea being that like a spur of the moment decision, oh man, I'm out of my muscle builder, or I'm out of my hydroxy cut, right? Whatever weight loss supplement or muscle building supplement, or I'm super stressed, super tired, I've been working my ass off, and I'm 25 years old and my dick's not working right, and that thing at the gas station says it's going to give me a boner, you know what I mean? Like you could take it. There's a high chance you can ingest an anabolic steroid. So we need to get this off. We need to get this off of it right now. You can absolutely unknowingly ingest, and we have many, many examples in professional sports of this happening. Recent examples.
I believe I saw in some of the articles that his sample that failed was in Malaysia, right after the Sepang race.
Right.
The round before was Phillip Island in Australia. Like, I mean, do you have any knowledge as to like if he took good supplements in Phillip Island, or like say he took bad supplements in Phillip Island, like would those remain in his system?
Yes. So this is sort of the next point, is that the testing regimen has gotten so good. I'm going to go back to UFC on this. John Jones had tested positive for steroids and received a suspension. Later, he tested positive for the same steroid again, but in what they referred to as a picogram, which is just an incredibly small amount. Yeah. And they actually did not suspend him and withdrew his test, not because it was a false positive, it was positive, but that the test is so accurate that it could get what they called pulsing effects, which is like it's maybe not fully out of your system for years.
Oh,
because the test is so specific and can get to such a small level at the picogram level of quantity that you can get pulsing, which is that like you're not taking it. You took it a year ago. You took it 2 years ago. So the idea that he might have passed a test or failed a later test is super easy. That if he took something in Malaysia or took something in Phillip Island and then it came up a month later in Malaysia, is totally possible. But this brings me to the point I really want to talk about for a minute, is that this idea, because we're talking about travel right now, right? Like, what was the schedule, right? He was Phillip Island, he was Malaysia. Look at that flyaway round. How much were they flying that month?
Oh, that's the toughest string of the season.
Right.
Towards the end.
This idea that a motorcycle professional athlete could not benefit from taking anabolic steroids and could not benefit from taking performance-enhancing drugs, that it was only to make him look better, is so categorically false. And this is where I actually feel like I might be somewhat like qualified to make more specifics, because the idea of recovery and the idea of managing overtraining or overstressors in training is something that's really interesting to me. So I need to explain something to people. You don't just take roids to get jacked. Okay, like you take roids for a variety of reasons. Cycling is one of the one of the dirtiest sports in the world, and no one is getting jacked. It's endurance. Whatever steroid you take, whatever you're doing, is simply going to amplify and help and work with whatever you're working out. There's a million kinds of. There's so many sports that have weight limits, right? the Olympic sports, there's weightlifting has weight categories. UFC has weight classes. Boxing has weight categories. Taekwondo, judo, all combat sports have weight classes. Jockeys on the anything that has a weight class can be benefited by steroids.
Well,
Any
it's
sport
performance enhancing drug. It's not
right.
yoked enhancing drug.
There's this thought process that if you take roids, you just get huge, and that's not really works out. Now it can be if that's the kind of lifting you're doing, but I want to explain. When this broke, everyone was talking about this, but no one was actually like looking down into the root of what recovery for an athlete in this schedule would be like. We need to understand things. Recovery is super unknown by most people. They did a study on recovery across many sports, and most coaches, most nutritionists don't actually know shit about recovery at all. They think they do, but they don't actually know what recovery means and what it is and why you need it and what constitutes recovery, just like they don't know what stressors are.
For recovery, I can't even find adequate information like anywhere on the internet about how to maximize recovery and how to prevent certain things.
It's like super unknown.
Yeah,
if you look
this
at
last
most
season, or just anecdote real fast. This last season in the summer for motorcycle racing, I was kind of struggling with performance like second and third day because it was so hot. And I was trying to look up like ice baths and cryogenic therapy to see what it actually did. And professional athletes do this shit all the time. Like they jump in ice baths, they go to cryotherapy, but
Right.
no one would. I literally could not find an NIH
the
study of
science
why it
is
worked.
actually hard to
Yeah.
find.
Yes,
the actual
I could find studies that said there is a result. Like we see that
Right.
athletes that take an ice bath right after, even a short one, are able to perform better the following day. But no one could tell me why.
But your point is interesting because it's going to bring me to what I really want to talk about, which is you're still talking about recovery from physically riding, from doing physical activity.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't even understand that physical activity is not the only kind of recovery. The stressor. They call it stressors, right? The things that add up.
Yeah.
For example, this comes out and I like just write a quick post. These guys are racing 18 races, traveling all over the world. International travel is a documented physical stressor with documented detrimental effects on physical performance. For example, if you travel like 5 to 6 time zones, you will have a marked decrease in grip strength. Because if there's one thing a motorcycle rider doesn't need, it's grip strength and endurance. Now, why do we know that grip strength gets dropped down? Because grip strength is the easiest for these kind of tests to do, and it is
real quick,
generally reflective of the whole body's endurance, right? If you travel significantly, you have a marked, this is just the effects of travel, nothing else. You get on a plane, you travel 10 hours, you travel time zones, you will be less strong. That is a major stressor, and there's lots of reasons for it. Not all of them is totally understood, but your circadian rhythm, which is your rhythm to the day and night time zones, is super messed up, and that's a problem. The kind of air you breathe, the cramped spaces, the stressing of just the act of travel itself has marked decrease in your strength and endurance. This is hard science backed up by actual studies, peer-reviewed studies by numerous universities and accredited colleges all over the world. Okay? Just the idea of the travel alone, we can have an hour-long podcast. So most athletes, when they do a study of athletes and how much recovery they're getting, we talk about recovery. The easiest way to discuss recovery is sleep, how much sleep you're getting. Something like 60% of professional athletes studied across all disciplines are not getting enough sleep. Of those athletes, the biggest offenders, the highest rated offenders, are athletes in individual sports, of which motorcycle racing is. So we already can look at that grid and say, well, most of these guys are traveling significantly and having the health effects of it. And most of these guys are not giving themselves the number one recovery. Now, do you know what there's the two most common reasons for under recovery, burnout syndrome, or overtraining are lack of knowledge on what recovery actually is. Again, actual science. And the second one is the individual athlete is not taking recovery seriously. And this includes things like not listening to coaches to have light days or days off. This is not getting enough sleep purposely. This is staying up. This is being on your phone, using it, not having a cool down, calm down routine to put your brain at rest to get meaningful sleep, because sleep is not recovery. Sleep efficiency is recovery. The quickness in which you achieve REM sleep and the duration of that REM sleep. So there's a difference between sleeping and having sleep efficiency. And individual athletes have the lowest rate of sleep efficiency among tested athletes. So
well, I mean, and these they're professional athletes too, right?
Right.
They're not just dealing with travel, they're dealing with their team and the like everything else, the marketing and all that.
That goes to the next one. When they do studies on the recovery rate of amateur athletes or athletes with jobs, we have some interesting takes. One, right off the bat, you could assess that Nicky Hayden once anecdotally said that he spent like 40 hours a week between PR obligations when he included what he was doing and the amount of travel getting to these things. These guys basically have a part-time job as PR guys. They're signing autographs, they're doing all of these things, right? So they're involved in much more than just the act of the sport itself. And tests among athletes and amateur athletes that would run between 20 and 40 hours a week of work and then working out, what they were finding was a significant drop in cortisol production. Everyone can pause this podcast and go look up what cortisol does, and you realize that what it does is it helps you to recover and metabolize fat, protein, and carbohydrates. All the things a professional athlete actually needs to recover correctly. So right off the bat, you are almost assured that Iannone doesn't know shit about recovery, that he's not getting enough sleep, that he's traveling too much, and that he's probably has significantly low amounts of cortisol in his system, among other things.
Just his lifestyle in general just breeds everything that you just said, like, or at least what we think his lifestyle is.
Now, when they do cross-disciplinary studies of who is the most overtrained and who is the most susceptible to burnout, do you know what section of athletes it is?
What specific sport?
No, it's juvenile athletes. Athletes between the age of 15 and 19. Guess who all of these guys are? They've all been doing this on a worldwide scale year after year after year since they were 15, 16, 17. The reason for this is that most coaches and most medical departments don't have any idea about recovery in the youth sports, specifically the juvenile range. Not like super youth, but the juvenile, the mid-teens. Most of these kids, I guarantee you, are trained too hard and not recovering enough, because across the only actual sports they tested that seem to have a grasp on this right now are international football and rugby.
Wait, you mean international football as in
soccer.
Okay,
yes, correct. Good. Soccer.
Clarify for the United States.
To clarify, not American football, although American football is pretty close just due to the insanely violent nature of it and how, like, these guys would die if they weren't recovering, right? But most sports in general certainly don't have sports scientists or skill acquisition specialists, and we need to understand that a nutritionist and a doctor are not recovery specialists. This is separate discipline. If you go to your doctor or your general practitioner, he is a general practitioner. Even these guys in Clinica Mobile, their job is to get these guys back on the grid. Their job is not for these guys' long-term health, okay? Like, it's a totally separate discipline, and most major clubs don't have these guys, except for in soccer. This has come on because obviously the amount of money that going into soccer versus the amount of expenditure, right? Like, MotoGP teams are all run at a net loss effectively, but Manchester United makes a lot of money, but they're not like having to build multi-million-dollar motorcycles.
I mean, it's interesting too to bring up like the 15 to 19 segment. Like, didn't California just pass a change to like the earliest times in which high school can start, because they found that age demographic, they need more sleep, and it's detrimental for them to start school that early.
The sports with the highest rate of under recovery are the sports that are traditionally practiced early in the morning. Swimming, for example, is a sport that has high rates of under recovery and burnout syndrome because they have to practice early. The worst thing you can do, and this, by the way, this is a tangent, is to get up early and work out. It's actually quite bad for you to do that. It would be better to work out before you slept than to get up early, because getting up early almost always correlates to a lack of sleep. Right now, if you're Rob, you're talking about you're being tired and being on your average race night. Are you getting 9 hours of sleep? That's how much you should be getting.
No.
9 hours of restful, high efficient sleep.
Yeah,
7 to
not.
9 hours.
In a hotel room, like
Correct.
having went to dinner with the sponsors and doing other things and trying to refuse alcoholic beverages. No.
Right. So your hotel room is the next thing. There is a specific documented difference between the rest in your home bed and the rest in a hotel bed.
I should have been taking my pillow like the entire season.
Yes.
It was stupid that I didn't.
You bring your own pillow and your own sheets. It makes a difference.
Sheets too.
Yes. So we know that these guys are not getting enough sleep. I guarantee you they're not getting enough sleep. Just the statistics are most of these guys aren't getting. So this is just one example of how being a professional athlete in MotoGP, there are stressors that people aren't thinking of. People think of this, that stressor is riding a bike. People think that a stressor is working out for it. No, there's so many other things that are stressors that affect your ability to recover efficiently. Outside obligations, i.e. work, PR, all that is a huge stressor, which we document drops your hormone levels significantly. Travel, the references to travel. Now, when you travel, not only are these guys probably not getting enough sleep day to day, because most individual athletes aren't, most of these guys are traveling so much that their sleep is incredibly low efficient, or has a low efficiency percentage. They're not getting the kind of sleep they need.
Yeah,
so we know right off
6 hours, it ends up being 4 of quality sleep, something
right.
like that.
So right off the bat, if you were to, and I'm telling this to Rob, if you were an international motorcycle racer and you're on the cusp of being on the grid or not, you should probably be on roids, because that's going to be the difference of you being on the grid or still in the CEV, right? But this is just one aspect where you could incredibly enhance your recovery, your ability to train and ride and practice, your focus, your strength, and your endurance from PEDs that would correlate or translate directly to improved performance racing a motorcycle. Anyone who thinks taking steroids, anabolic steroids, wouldn't help you race a motorcycle is a fucking moron. Straight up. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no background in the situation whatsoever. If you don't have I don't have a degree in kinesiology, but I've studied this stuff at Notes, at least be able to have a little podcast information about it. And I urge you guys to look this up, because most people in general aren't. When you go to bed at night on your phone, do you have a routine for how much you can be on your phone, the level of light you have, and when you will turn it off? Probably not. When you are on your phone, the light from your phone dilates your eyes specifically differently than the sun outside, and it's going to keep you up. It increases hormone levels to keep you awake. We have major problems with this. You think Iannone is doing that? You think half these guys are doing that? No, of course not. They don't have regulated phone time. No one regulates your phone time. You know why? Because the smartest people on the planet right now are not trying to cure AIDS and cancer. They're trying to figure out how an algorithm will keep you addicted to a quarter-second stimulus on your phone, because they get ad sales for it.
This is why Jack Miller doesn't run his own Instagram, even though Cal Crutchlow liked to give him shit for it.
You should not. You should not be doing anything but focusing on riding. If these guys really shouldn't be the PR machines that they are, they should not be doing appearances. All of these things add up massively to your ability to recover. And we're only talking about one small segment of recovery. And this idea that these guys are professional athletes. They are such in good shape, it's unbelievable. Ben Bostrom, who was not even a GP caliber rider, was such a good cyclist and swimmer that back in 2008 or 7, he just entered the Silverman Triathlon in Nevada and was leading the individual group after the swimming and the bike stage before he pulled out of the running stage because he broke his back earlier in his career and the running was too hard because they were running on pavement and he was used to trail running. So these guys, Ben Bostrom is a straight up triathlon, professional level triathlete.
Yeah, like Jensen Button retired from Formula One and entered into Ironman and triathlon and is Like there's a reason why
These guys are
top
such
caliber
good
athletes.
cyclists, they could be professional cyclists. Okay, like these guys are not like schleps who just get on a bike. This isn't like 1973. Some of the guys, sure, you have your Anthony Goberts or whatever who can get on there drunk or high or hungover and turn laps, but in this day and age, these guys are straight up pro athletes. When everyone says, "Oh, they have nutritionists," or Casey Stoner got sent to a sports psychologist because, or excuse me, that was Marco Melendry. Casey Stoner ended up getting fired because he took 3 races off in 2009 because he was so fatigued and couldn't like work, and no one knew what was going on. He ended up being diagnosed with like lactose intolerance. Like, no, these teams, each MotoGP team does not have its own dedicated skill acquisition specialist or like these guys. Yeah, you could have dietitians or whatever, but most of them, just like in the UFC, just like in sports where you're individual contractors, these are provided by Dorna. These guys aren't that you pay for that yourselves. And yes, you could, but a dietitian and nutritionist is not the same thing as a recovery specialist. And the idea, we need to forget that's only one aspect of it. It's just like saying a dietitian or nutritionist knows some about recovery, but there's a million things that recovery doesn't know because recovery itself isn't what he's working on.
And that's, so you just brought up so many points that we could go off tangents there, especially with Casey Stoner, right. Or like, and relating to him, like Jonas Folger and stuff too, right? Like diagnosed with a disease recently.
Epstein-Barr syndrome. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one other point too with PEDs, like, I mean, your point here at the end is that they absolutely should be taking PEDs. And the thing about most PEDs in sports with testing with WADA and all the international bodies that do manage this, they can take PEDs and everyone can take them up to a certain point. Like, I'm sure there are some drugs, especially with anabolic steroids, that the amount allowed is effectively 0, but that can't apply to everything. And I even saw in one article that Iannone he failed by 20%. Like there with the drug that he took, there was some threshold where he took 20% too much.
It's too high after this.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing about, or at least what I've learned just from less research than Kev here, is that when you're doing a test on the human body, right, especially for things that are byproducts of metabolism and already in the human body, you can't set the limit at 0. You can't set the limit
right, because it's what he tested for, it can be in your body in some level.
Yeah. So you have to set the limit somewhere where every person that is not taking steroids will fall below this limit. But say with me, right, I'm a small guy, like I don't train nearly as much as a professional athlete. Like, I'll make the assumption that my level of this tested substance is going to be automatically lower than someone else, which means I can take up to the limit and not get caught for cheating.
Well, we need to understand that also that you don't necessarily like what is recovery, right? We're recovering, but why do we want to recover? So that we can, in the most cases, do more. People will say things like, "Oh, being on steroids doesn't make him able to brake quicker or adjust his lines better or whatever." But guess what, guys? Anticipation and decision making in sport is absolutely, and if you're listening on the podcast, I'm holding up a textbook about the nature of training, anticipation, and decision making in a sports context.
With that title,
can actually be trained. You can absolutely train your anticipation abilities, your decision-making abilities, and the accuracy of your decision-making ability. You can absolutely do these things. But how do you do it? You have to train. What can you do if you're recovered? You can train. What if you're really recovered? You can train more. What if me and Rob are training for the same thing, but I can train twice as much as him because I'm recovering from the trauma of the training better, meaning I can train more. So I can tell you right now, taking steroids to get jacked might not make you be able to might not be able to drop your elbow down quicker to save the low side because you're actually anticipating the situation and making quicker, more accurate decisions. But you can absolutely train your ability to make these decisions. You can do this, and any team or coach, guys, if you coach amateur sports and you are not working on skill acquisition as it comes to anticipation and decision making, you're going to get left behind. all of these guys would benefit from anticipation and decision-making training, and you could absolutely do that if you were on steroids, because you could train half again as much.
I guess this is just like the average person thinking about steroids as only a physical performance enhancer.
That's
right?
the problem.
With cycling,
they only think of it as a physical performance.
But like with cycling, it's super obvious, right? Like
sure, you get big, strong quads. You can pedal longer.
Yeah, you take steroids, now you can train at 34 miles an hour instead of 28 miles an hour, and that will make you a far better athlete 6 months down the road because you now have so much more time at that much higher power output. But I mean, you got to also remember that these aren't just like, we're not talking about even well, Kev, your point applies to qualifying because they're doing decision making. But even if you don't go that far into the mental aspect of training and of their performance, there's 45-minute motorcycle races. Right? Mm-hmm. Do anything that's very, very physically difficult for 45 minutes and tell me how.
Do it in Sepang.
Yeah, right. Do it in Sepang in the heat, and tell me that you wouldn't be better off being that much more trained and able to cope with that. Like, even the MotoAmerica races that I do are significantly, they're 3 to 3.5 times longer than a club race. You do a MotoAmerica race and a club race seems like a walk in the park, simply because you're fresh at the end of it. Where a MotoAmerica race, I can be as trained as I possibly can be, and I'm not at 100% at the very end. All my inputs are slower. All my mental thought processes, all my decision making, even there is some detriment there. There's something that didn't work as well as it could have.
Correct.
And everyone goes slower at the end of races. I mean, well, at least since we got off of Bridgestones and setting lap records at the end.
Right. So all I'm saying is, I'm not endorsing, like, I believe in clean sport. I think that we don't really want guys. I think it's dumb. We're testing for things like weed, but you know what I mean? But like, but although one could argue that weed would be an enhancer simply because the ability to handle the pre-night stress, to handle pressure better, again, performing under pressure. One of the major things here is discussions of the night and the week of major competitions. If there
was a side effect less like drug that you could take to get perfect sleep the night before a sporting event, everyone would take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Right.
For sure.
So I'm not endorsing him taking roids. I'm just trying to argue. What the fuck? My computer just like gave me a weird pop-up. Right. Sorry, I'm not saying you should, but what I mean is that there's two things that are totally wrong with the common talking points right now, which is he couldn't have accidentally taken anabolic steroids. Totally, absolutely.
I think you for sure proved that one.
I think not only can you have, but a high percentage of people saying that you can't probably have accidentally.
I got to go check that list because I've bought some shady bro supplements off of Amazon before.
Yep. I'll do it. Like, you're probably on roids.
This one looks the least shady.
That's why you can grow a mustache now.
No, it's still I tried. It doesn't happen.
Right. So to recap what we've kind of talked about, and we were going to do this last week, but we got a little off scale with so we couldn't do it. So I wasn't quite as prepared today. But to recap, significant number of brands, upwards of 750 in the United States alone, test positive for unlisted substances that are almost always banned on the ban list of things you can't take. The most common of these unlisted substances are these supplements revolved around muscle building, sexual performance, and weight loss, which are all relevant to, well, two of them are relevant to motorcycle racing, and all three of them are relevant to Andrea Iannone's life, from what I can tell from his Instagram. Okay, so the chances of him accidentally ingesting anabolic steroids it's not non-zero. It's probably like 20%, 25%. He easily could have done it. It's huge. If he's taking any supplements whatsoever. If you are taking more than 5 supplements, there's a pretty high chance you right now, listener, have accidentally ingested either anabolic steroids, Viagra, the active ingredient in Viagra, or you have, weight loss, prescription grade weight loss supplements.
Got to check that list.
Got to check that list because Rob is trying to stay shredded and rocked. But if you were to knowingly take steroids, there is so many benefits to the idea of why you take steroids revolving around outside factors other than just turning the throttle on a motorcycle, that I would probably, a huge portion of the grid is probably on something.
We know
I have
Anthony
no
West
doubt in my
was.
mind. All sports. They're all sports. I don't know enough about Anthony West's story to make a comment. I haven't studied it. And that one's pretty fucked, like how blackballed he's gotten, like way above and beyond what should happen. And
But then
so I don't really want to.
But then he failed again. So you're right.
I don't want to like
won't go off.
endorse or take away. Yeah,
Sorry.
but
Sorry.
all I'm saying is that you could have significant performance increases if you were taking anabolic steroids on the MotoGP grid. Direct performance increases revolving around the travel load, the workload, the recovery load, and the science behind how unrecovered and overtrained most individual sport athletes are, and most individual sport athletes who travel internationally are. It's quite outrageous, and how, like, there's an entire chapter in the book that I showed you here just now, but it's covered under a lot of other literature that I've read as well, because one of the things that I like to study is what coaches don't know, because I actually think most coaches don't know shit. Most coaches don't know anything. Just because you know how to play the sport doesn't mean you know shit about how to coach it. And this, for me, goes to a lot of stuff I've seen in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, combat sports, and a lot of other sports. I coached youth sports for a long time, girls softball, boys football, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling. So it's just a pet project of mine that I like. Most people don't know shit about coaching, and this goes to coaches at the professional level. Most coaches surveyed, studied across most sports, like I said, outside of international football, soccer, and rugby, don't know shit about recovery. They don't even actually know what recovery is. They think it's like hanging out. For example, the 10 to 15 minutes post
activity,
the post competition are the most important for recovery. The most important by far. It accounts for like 80% of the initialization of your recovery. And what do most of these athletes do? You just finished a 45-minute race in Sepang. Hey, you need to come over here. You need to do 3 interviews to me. You need to try to think clear instead of going and having a cool rest down period. And then you need to go do a fucking press conference about it. It's the worst fucking thing they could do. If you're in football, you just finished second half. You've been in like 27 car accidents if you're a running back or defensive lineman effectively. And what do you need to do? You need to walk up to this lady and have a fucking conversation and get super stiff. No, that's the worst thing you can do. The 10 to 15 minute session immediately following a competition is the most important part of recovery by far. It accounts for like 80% of the initialization of your recovery ability. And what do we do with these guys? We make them, and as soon as they're done with this incredibly grueling, difficult, taxing thing, get out in front of this thing, do your extracurricular work, do your interview, talk, don't go down, recover, don't. One of the most in-shape, best guys I know whatsoever, my friend Danny, he is an absolute stud. He's so good. He runs a jiu-jitsu school, and after every single training session, he has an entire post-training yoga session that he calls his corpse session, because the whole session is done laying down.
He's just in corpse pose the entire time?
No, he calls it that like as a joke, but he has an entire series of recovery-based stretches, positional moves to slow his body down evenly. It's the same thing in the motorcycle. Rob, you finish a race, you don't just cut the engine. You have a cool down lap. You pull it in. You don't rev the thing at 15,000 RPMs for 45 minutes and then cut the engine. It's terrible for it. You need to cool it down. The human body is no different. It's more complex. It's infinitely more complex. Because of the media obligations and the monetary obligations for the sport, most of these guys are doing the worst possible things they could be doing for recovery as normal job obligations of the sport. So what I'm trying to say is that most of these coaches, dietitians, and doctors don't know shit. And it's not me just saying, oh, they don't know shit because I'm so smart, because Dunning-Kruger effect, I read something. No, studies are showing, studies on coaches, coaches of teams and on their medical staff don't know anything about recovery. They don't, like, it's something like 50% of the coaches surveyed across like 20 different sports, and it was like 1,500 coaches they surveyed. I could be wrong on that exact number, but it's a large number of coaches didn't know what their athletes did for personal recovery.
And I mean, even in my personal experience, I know that's super important for my performance, even like But hey, it just shows why the best of the best are the best of the best, right? It for me, it bumps their level up even higher. Like I already
But it also
knew
should
they're
show you
aliens.
that being the best doesn't mean you know anything.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Right? Being the best means you just know what everyone else is doing too. So, and we'll go on to our next points, but I just want to say the idea that it wouldn't help is absurd. He may or may not have taken them purposefully. We don't know, but he easily could have taken them accidentally. But if he was taking them personally, or if he purposefully, he could absolutely gain a marked benefit in performance, as could anyone on the GP grid, and as is probably a huge portion of them. I guarantee you.
God damn, Iannone blowing it all out of the water.
Mm-hmm. Iannone blowing things is probably how he got in this mess to begin with.
I mean, Bradley Smith might have a resurgence in his career after this. Right now, his suspension is provisional and
It's provisional. They're
and
retesting.
indefinite at this point.
Well, his B sample is being tested January 7th.
Yeah. So
now, like I said, his B sample almost assuredly will come back exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's almost no. What will be appealed is how it got in his system.
Yep. And that'll probably run on into the beginning of the season effectively.
It could be the end of his career.
It very well could be.
It could be the opposite. He could be exonerated, and he could absolutely. My problem with everything that came out with this is the automatic jump to like, well, this guy cares too much about how he looks. This guy cares too much about this and that. He's posing, he's on Instagram. Like, just because the guy's a little feminine and does the modeling stuff on the side, you think Marc Marquez doesn't care about how he looks? He's shirtless, shredded with abs all of the time on his fucking Instagram feed and Facebook all the time. These guys all care about how they look. They're all on camera all the time. Cal Crutchlow cares about how he looks. They all do. That the guy has a side job where he models sometime and he creates other things, I think is skewing people's responses to this. We have this weird unproven that he got cosmetic, like this weird rumor that he got his jaw. Like, it reminds me of the rumors like in 1999 where people were like, Marilyn Manson got his ribs removed so he could suck his own dick. Remember, like, you know what I mean? Which, like, I don't know.
Wow, you went there. Yeah.
I did, whatever, right? I'm just saying, like,
right,
that's rumors start, right? No one has access to this dude's medical records. No press release was done. The only actual medical press release that was done was a dentist said that he had an infection in his tooth. Maybe it came from jaw surgery. I have no idea. But the reality is everyone just took these paddock rumors for gospel with no information. I just spent 45 minutes talking about sports recovery, stressors in recovery, tainted supplements percentage, and I did more research than, and it's crazy to me that like two dipshits in California are having to do actual research on these topics because everyone is just parroting the same thing. All the news that you saw was just like the same. Everyone was just copy pasting each other. No one was giving analysis on this whatsoever. It was driving me fucking nuts, bro.
That's why we're recording this episode. We got to bring you something new, everyone.
We got to bring like something to the table, and to the table I'm bringing you is some peer-reviewed research on these topics, but no one else is doing that right now. So you all thought we were farting dick jokes, and trust me, we are. But
still
also,
gonna do those. We'll get to
we
those
like
later.
Science,
especially
like
whenever
science.
It comes back. We'll get back to the farting dick jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Kev, we're gonna move on. We'll get to my point here. I know you don't want to be here for 90 minutes this time, so I think we can get through this one kind of quick. Mm-hmm. Switching gears a little bit to MotoAmerica, obviously our American National Series here. MotoAmerica has had two big things kind of come up in the news lately. The first one leads more to topics that you definitely know more about than I do, and it's Yoshimura Suzuki. So Suzuki announced,
man. This is such a bummer.
Suzuki announced that they were moving their factory support from Yoshimura to the Hammer M4 Hammer team, which has been in. I actually don't know how long they've competed in AMA and MotoAmerica, but it's been forever. Yeah,
decades.
And obviously the Hammer team won the Super Sport title with Bobby Fong. They won the Twins title with Alex Dumas. They have Jake Lewis in Superbike. They essentially, they're synonymous with the paddock. They're owned by the Ulrich family, who also owns Road Racing World, which is a huge presence in road racing in the United States. There's a joke going on the Wera forum that John and Chris Ulrich like just read all the dipshit posts about rumors and everything when they're just talking shit. And he used to go on there and post and like shut people down, but now he just doesn't have the time anymore because it's the internet, you know?
Right.
But yeah, so
if anyone questions my qualifications on how far back I go on AMA, Yoshimura, and Road Racing World, I remember when Road Racing World was the big ass odd shaped magazine, not the like standard size magazine. That weirdly like tall, long. Yeah, some people do. Like 8 guys are like, I fucking remember that, and only like the first 20 pages were in color.
What?
Yeah, I remember, like, oh yeah, I love Road Racing World. I used to get Road Racing World, Cycle News, and Cycle Trader all on the same day at Quick Stop. I would go pick them up. Yeah, Road Racing World was the shit. I mean, it was a good magazine for sure. I haven't read it in forever, but Yoshimura, not to switch gears, Yoshimura is like synonymous with AMA, MotoAmerica.
That's the first gear. That's the first gear. Run with that.
First gear. Like the idea that they're not. I was like stunned. I remember I texted Kyle. I was like, what's going on? Like. These guys are legendary. I mean, Matt Mladen, the greatest AMA racer of all time. You know, Ben Spies. Like, it's crazy. They go so far back in the Superbike days. I can't even think of American racing without Yoshimura. It's decades back. It's crazy to me that they aren't going to be in the paddock and on the grid next year. I was caught flat-footed in a way. Like, I was more stunned by that than the Iannone drug test failure.
Dear to your heart. Did they?
Yes.
They competed in Superbike when it was 750s and even further back?
They competed in Superbike when the fucker's still at handlebars, dude.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like it goes way back.
Yeah, so the departure of Yoshimura, or at least the separation of Yoshimura from Suzuki, it seems like there's some rumors that are a little weird about it. Like supposedly Yoshimura found out from the press release,
Sweet.
Which is great look. It seems like that's the norm these days.
I know these days it's like people find out they got sacked on Twitter, like across all sports. You know what I mean? It's so weird.
I don't even want to jump too far into that. Just kind of letting everyone know. Other rumor that I've heard is that Yoshimura US was struggling with performance and setup this last year because they were somehow like handcuffed by Yoshimura Japan, which is a very, very weird thing to. I mean, we've heard this before, right? Like factories will prevent some race team from doing something with their setup or force them to run certain parts and not do this other thing, right? Like, I mean, we've even seen in MotoGP, right, that Bautista was forced onto Nissan brakes and Showa suspension, and that team was unhappy about it for the longest time. And I don't know. That's complete wild speculation. But this does kind of point to the idea that perhaps Suzuki felt that they could do better, maybe for cheaper, by going with Hammer.
Right.
And that's probably some source or justification for why this move has happened. I mean, I don't think that Suzuki is trying to pull out of MotoAmerica. They just are trying to get maybe a little bit more bang for their buck and reduce their financial commitment in the series. Because that's what we're seeing out of Yamaha as well, right? Yamaha is no longer running their full factory team. They're now hiring Attack to run the factory team. And
it's such weird timing too, because yesterday, or I think it was the day before, MotoAmerica actually released that they had record numbers of viewers, through the streaming app and Facebook and Instagram and all that. Like they had their record number of actual race views. So they're on the up and up in terms of actual coverage, but it doesn't seem to be correlating to teams coming to the grid or staying on the grid at this point now. The thing that bugs me the most about the whole situation isn't that they left, because like everything ends, right? Like you got to call it quits at some point. You can't just do the same thing forever. Is that like fucking dipshit Ben Spies and his stupid comments early in the season were totally right.
He wasn't totally right. He was not totally right.
Well, not totally right, but like there was some truth to his comments.
He said that the factories were going to be missing from MotoAmerica soon, and that is also not verbatim. But yeah, what he is. like it's almost like he made it come true by spouting off about it, but that's probably also not true. But essentially, yeah. So factory involvement has changed in MotoAmerica. We know that Yamaha has reduced their commitment because they're no longer going to run their own team. It's likely that they are saving money by paying Attack to do it. And then I just speculated that it's likely that Suzuki is getting more bang for their buck by moving from Yoshimura to Hammer. And maybe their support will stay exactly the same. Maybe they're going to be reducing the support. That's completely unknown. And we're never going to find out the answer to that. We're only going to be able to tell by the results next year.
Right.
That's the only thing we got going there. But
yeah,
and to your point about the viewership coming up and more on demand views, like obviously where there's a Superbike show on NBC and on Fox Sports, they have the streaming presence now. There are more people going to the races. The uptick on that is slow. It's not dramatically more each year, but they're still going up. The thing that I think is missing, it's just the expectations from the sponsors and the teams are still up here, and the viewership is still down here, like the return on investment. So we're slowly, like, viewership is coming up, ROI is increasing slowly, and commitment is decreasing. And eventually I hope that those two will be the same, that the expectations
like meet.
Yeah, exactly. The expectations will match what you're getting from the series. Or I mean, maybe it'll even go further, right? You'll get more than you expect. And that would be great for the sport as a whole. But so let's use that to quickly transition to something that MotoAmerica is actually doing to kind of increase the return on investment for sponsors and even for the racers in the series. And Kev, so you told me before we started recording that you have no idea what the MotoAmerica Superbike Cup is all about.
None. No idea.
So we can all remember a couple of years ago, MotoAmerica had Stock 1000 and Superbike in the same race. Or sorry, it was Super Stock 1000 at the time, in the same race. It was two different spec machines, right? Obviously, Super Stock 1000, a little bit lower spec, can't do everything to the engine, can't run crazy electronics. And the grid at that time was about 20 riders. Last year in MotoAmerica, I think full-time entries were at 14 riders, about there, and it was all Superbike. And then MotoAmerica obviously introduced Stock 1000, a much lower spec class, to kind of attract, the fast club racers, maybe people that weren't doing so great in Super Sport, maybe the Junior Cup riders that had grown out of that class, to get them onto leader bikes so that one day they could transition to Superbikes. The transition has been very difficult, to say the least, because it's still ridiculously expensive to race a Superbike. Like, it costs you twice as much as a good Stock 1000 program. And there aren't any teams that are available to just take a Stock 1000 rider and put them on a Superbike. They just don't exist. So you're asking Stock 1000 racers who maybe just, have been destroying club racing for a year or two to now win in Stock 1000 and then move up to Superbike. Like, it's a very large ask. So what MotoAmerica is doing is introducing what they're calling the Superbike Cup. And it's essentially Stock 1000 riders can apply to the Superbike Cup. And if they're accepted into it, they now can enter into the Superbike races free of charge. So then they do this on the same exact weekend as they race in Stock 1000. So like Stock 1000 is with they have 9 rounds throughout the season. I think they get 12 races total. They can now enter in the Superbike races and kind of, race more. They also get a free set of tires.
Okay.
And there's a huge purse at the end of the year for the number one racer in the Superbike Cup wins $25,000.
Okay.
And they also have access to the Superbike purse, which just went up. So given that with only like 14 Superbike racers, right, and the Superbike purse paying to 15th or 20th, right? It's a Stock 1000 racer can enter in, get access to that purse, get a free set of tires, and then get all the exposure that Superbike brings, right? Because they'll be on television as opposed to just the streaming service.
Right.
Right. It's if you're a team or if you're a racer in Stock 1000 and you're fast enough and experienced enough to race in the Superbike Cup, it seems like a no-brainer. Like,
I mean, free tires.
yeah, you get a free set of tires and you have access to this purse, right? Because the 10th through 15th in Superbike pays $12.50, right? So you're paying everything that you would to race in Stock 1000, and now you have the chance of winning $1,250 by finishing in 15th in the Superbike race.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like there will be some people that don't like this idea because it's taking us back to what we had before with Stock 1000 and Superbike is kind of two different races.
Grid.
Yeah, but it's not, because they're literally we will be told, I'm sure, on the broadcast that these guys are on Stock 1000 bikes, especially because towards the end of the year when they're fighting for that $25,000 winning prize. But to me, it's just an excuse to show other racers on the feed.
That's the main thing. It's going to show, the feed is going to show other things other than just the front two guys. You're going to be able, it gives an excuse to show larger portions of the field and potentially different races. And what it does do is add stakes to battles for 10.
Yeah.
That are larger. It gives you a larger storyline. I'm intrigued by the idea. That's for sure.
The other thing that I think this is going to accomplish is it's going to prove to the fast and qualified Stock 1000 racers that they don't have to be on what is now Attack Factory Yamaha and Hammer Factory Suzuki to compete in the class. Right. Because there's a lot of talk all over the internet of, oh, if we just change the rules to, like, you know, super stock or whatever and stop doing full Superbike, then everyone would enter. And, you know, there have been those changes before. I mean, I think Kyle Wyman is a huge proponent of calling out people for their shit with this one. I probably shouldn't have name dropped Kyle for that. Sorry, Kyle.
Kind of keeps it real.
Yeah, but it's essentially like we can do all these things, and, you know, there may be 50 people that say, oh yeah, I'll totally enter if they do this, but then 3 of them enter out of that much larger number, and actually you got to get people to put up or shut up, right? But so last year in Travis Wyman, actually, like, he started out competing the year in Stock 1000 and he transitioned to the Superbike class. There's more exposure. He's finished, like, sure, he went from fighting for wins in Stock 1000 to now, you know, fighting for top 10s in Superbike, but you're on television. You're fighting for a much larger purse, right? You're getting 2 races every single weekend as opposed to occasionally 2, a double header.
And one race at the end of the weekend, and when everyone's leaving.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I remember racing at Laguna at like 4:30 p.m. on the Sunday after, and literally there's no one in the stands left because everyone already watched both Superbike races and they're
gone.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just like Travis Wyman, obviously he had the balls and the people behind him to just form as much of a Superbike program as he could and enter into the class, right? There needs to be other Stock 1000 racers that are just willing to make that jump, even if they don't have access to the $100,000 motorcycle with the $100,000 a year electronics technician and the crazy Superbike engine. Just get into the class, put yourself out there, and help MotoAmerica become better and have all these bikes on the grid. Right, it's only everything that we can do at this point to make MotoAmerica a better show is gonna pay dividends to everyone a year or 2 down the road.
Right.
Wait, so that's all I got for the Superbike Cup. I mean, do you think people are gonna put up or shut up, Kev, and actually enter into this thing? You think they're gonna? You think it'll get more people on the grid for Superbike?
It's only gonna take one guy getting an astonishing result to change everything. You know what I mean? Like, we remember back when they were a mixed grid and Josh Herron on a stock bike.
Or that wasn't when it was mixed. That was when his team failed at bringing the Superbike to the first race of the year. But no, it was Bobby Fong on the Lattice Kawasaki, like at Coda. he was fighting for the podium at a track with a crazy long straightaway when he's
Right.
down like 30 horsepower.
It's only gonna take a guy. Everyone loves an underdog story, and you have to believe that you're the underdog that can make it happen. You know, a stock 1000 kid who's got the speed and he's just ready to fucking lay it all on the line and get inside that top 10 or get a top 5, and that's when you're really gonna see like desire to be in it. You know, or as you say, put up or shut up, explode. Like the moment someone realizes they can use that to create themselves as an underdog story, which everyone loves, you'll see significantly increased interest.
Well, yeah, and with the way that MotoAmerica is positioning this with that purse, right? If you're a Superbike team looking for a new rider, like you take the guy that got first in the Superbike Cup and you put him on a real Superbike.
Exactly.
I think the rules are set right now such that you have to, like, your bike for the Superbike Cup has to be your stock 1000 motorcycle. Like, it has to follow stock 1000 rules. There's some discussion that potentially there will be more modifications allowed at a later time because, you know, there are things that you could probably do easily that would make your bike illegal for stock 1000. But like, you know, you bolt on a set of forks or something between the two races. And then you're now Superbike legal. But
yeah, exactly.
But that's just there hasn't been anything published on that. If it was just a thought that showed up in the rules. But yeah, I mean, with MotoAmerica, with viewership increasing, it's definitely sad to see a team like Yoshimura leave, or kind of maybe be pushed out, just because they're losing their factory support. But I mean, we kind of saw the same thing with Graves a little bit. Like Graves is no longer a part of the factory Yamaha team, and they're no longer being paid to do anything for that. Sorry, a little background noise there. They're no longer being paid to do anything for Yamaha, and they switched over to Kawasaki. A lot of people are asking why isn't Graves Kawasaki on the Superbike grid? And I got to imagine it's because they're not being paid to race Superbike.
Right.
You don't like we're not talking about like the amount of money that I spend to go race a few MotoAmerica rounds. You add a couple, like 1 or 2 zeros, probably 2 zeros onto that.
Yeah, exactly. Literally exponentially more.
And you now have a Superbike program. So like we are very dependent in the United States, especially of big companies and wealthy people showing interest in our sport to keep this thing going. Right. And it's an interesting position to be in because of everything that you know about the history and the 90s and the heyday of American road racing.
Oh man, like 2002, just going to fucking Sears Point, and just the lines are around the block to get in, just so huge. I got the straight heyday.
Yeah, and that the track's not even on the calendar for next year.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Well, the asphalt is garbage.
Yes,
but
I mean it's in dire need of work.
I don't know. I mean, we'll probably talk about Laguna Seca eventually here too, and see how that impacts us in California. I mean, the round for MotoAmerica at Laguna Seca is on the calendar for next year, so we're going to attend.
Right.
But we'll see how that goes. There's a lot more shit that we'll bring you probably next episode about Laguna Seca.
Fucking Laguna Seca.
All right, Kev, we went over time on this one. All right, everyone. This will definitely be the last you hear from us in 2019. But we'll come at you in 2020 for sure. Check the BrotoGP store at brotogp.com. Monday morning is when I'll have the shirts available, and I didn't order that many. I think I ordered like 35. So if you want a large, you better get on there Monday morning.
Yes, correct. And I'll post links on our social media and all the same stuff, so you can just link directly to it. And again, yes, if you want worldwide shipping, totally normal. In fact, we ship more worldwide than we do stateside.
Almost. Yeah, it was a lot.
Close
Plenty
enough.
of people in Sweden.
The Swedes, man, they love our shit.
They love the show, and Australia
I love
too.
Sweden. I'll move to Sweden in a second.
All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will catch you after the new year. Happy holidays and
Happy
peace.
holidays.